Around that time, the friend who helped me build that cream soda computer, because we drank cream soda all the time while we worked on it, introduced me to another friend of his, Steve Jobs. The reason he introduced us was we had a couple things in common. We had gone to the same high school, although we didn't know each other, and we had electronics and pranks. Well, one of the first things, Steve and I just talked about all sorts of electronic issues and counters and where you could get LED displays and drivers and all this. So we were heavily into electronics, fun for ourselves, nothing, official or serious. One day I picked up a magazine and I started reading a story about phone freaks and blue boxes. A blue box, in theory, this was a fiction article. It was labeled fiction. But a blue box was a little device that put special tones into anybody's phone, and those tones would start making the entire phone circuitry of the entire phone system of the world connect you anywhere you wanted, on any paths you wanted, and go around the world as many times as you wanted. And somehow it was the most amazing fiction I'd ever read. And the heart of this fiction was an engineer named Captain Crunch. And supposedly, if you read this thing, he drove around the country in his VW van, packed with racks of electronics equipment because he was the brightest telephone engineer that ever existed. And he would clamp into payphones out in some lonely Utah desert, Colorado desert. And he would start setting up networks with 20 different phone freaks, all talking to each other, sharing information, passing codes, and connected all over the world. And it was an intriguing story. Before I was halfway through reading this piece of fiction, I called Steve Jobs on the phone and started reading it to him over the phone. How Captain Crunch would talk about, I'm not in it to hurt Ma Bell. I only want to explore the system. The phone company is a computer, a system, and I like to explore computers and find all the little bugs and where all the little alleyways of this whole system go and find where the network connects. And I don't really ever want to hurt Ma Bell, kind of a love-hate relationship. And it was just so intriguing to read this kind of stuff. Well, as I was talking to Steve Jobs on the phone, it occurred to me that, wait a minute, they're giving too much information about certain frequencies and certain codes. There's too much information here. This doesn't sound right for a fiction. And so we decided to go check some of it out. So on a Sunday, we went to, where's the technical library you could sneak into on a Sunday? Well, we picked the Stanford Linear Accelerator Center. No question, you go to any of these places, in the high research, the very pure theoretical research type places, and boy, I'll tell you, there's no such thing as a closed door or a locked door, so we always found our way in. And we'd go up to the library and read all the computer magazines every week, and we found a book on the telephone system, and it had the same frequencies that were mentioned in this article that was called fiction. And we looked at each other and realized that we had stumbled onto something that was not fiction. So we figured out how to build a blue box, and we actually built one, and we could make phone calls anywhere we wanted for free. And we also managed to meet Captain Crunch. But we had a very interesting philosophy about it, a very pure philosophy. We would go out to payphones night after night after night and start learning talk, just by experimenting. We'd learn how to talk to operators in London and to transfer us over to Tokyo, and Tokyo back to London, London to Tokyo. We started calling all the different dial-a-discs and dial-a-jokes and dial-a-songs all over the world, from Australia to Hong Kong to wherever. And we did this to explore everything we could do. We tried to do something new that we hadn't done before. But when we came back to the dorm, and Steve went back to his home, when I called my relatives, I called my parents, I called my friends, I called Steve himself, we never used the blue box. We paid for our phone calls. I had a very high phone bill. The idea was the blue box was an incredible tool to explore a world of fantasy and imagination, but not to rip off the phone company. Also you're a little afraid to make calls on your own phone and get caught. So we had a lot of fun, we did a lot of demonstrations of blue boxes and convinced, we were just MCs and we were just the most incredible. We'd do jokes for an hour, and we would always we'd get a group of 20 people in one dorm, and it was pretty amazing how we were very careful to be selective enough that we never got caught. Get 20 people in there and we'd connect them all to different countries on one phone after another up and down the hall, and we'd just joke after joke. We always forced them to record it, and never once did we ever not sell a blue box the next day. So